go back to the beginning. I can't control what tomorrow will bring, but I know here in the middle is the place where you promised to be. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? As I walk now through the valley, let your love rise above every fear, like the sun chasing shadow. In my weakness, your glory appears. Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want is all you are. Will you meet me here again? Not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? 'Cause all I want It's all you are. Will you meet me here? I'm not enough unless you come. Will you meet me here again? It's all I want. It's all you are. came to my rescue. I just wanna be with you.
You know, every week that I watch these online experiences, I am absolutely blessed by our band and the time that they put in and for leading us into the presence of God. If this is your first or second time with us, I encourage you, in the chat feature, if you're watching through our church online platform, there'll be a spot for you to get connected, just let us know that maybe you're visiting or you're checking us out. Maybe this is your first or second time, and I'd like the opportunity to extend a more personal welcome to you, to drop you a note in the mail, and also just to let you know some of the things that are available in the life of our church right now. Our building is closed, but our church is very, very open, and we're seeing the reach of our church extend into places that we never could have gone if we weren't doing some of what we're doing right now. You know, several years ago, I was serving a church in the Midwest, and I remember my time there vividly and the friendships that I made. And there was a man who was part of that church who really became, in many ways, like a spiritual father to me. Really, really a blessing. In fact, I spent, a Father's Day with him and that kind of thing. And I remember one particular season, he was out of work. He was out of work, and these were uncertain times for him. And I remember every week he would come in, and I would watch him at church when the offering plate would come around, and I'd see him put something in. Finally, I went to him one day and I said, I won't say his name for purposes of confidentiality. I said to him, I noticed every week you continue to give. And he said, what's going on the job front? And he said, well, brother, let me teach you something. And I said, what's that? He said, I give because I'm confident that God will supply all of my needs. And I don't give because I make sure this adds up to this, adds up to this. I give because I trust God. And that even in exercising my obedience to Him, He'll continue to meet every need that I have. When that whole season had passed, we got together and we're having breakfast, and he went through a list of ways that God had met every need. He said to me, I never trusted my resources. I decided to trust the one who never stopped providing for me. I want to invite you in this next minute or two to put your hope in the one who can be trusted. I know this is an uncertain season. Believe me, we're feeling some of those uncertainties as a church. But today, you and I have the opportunity to declare before God that our trust is in Him. My family's doing that through this season. And I know many of you are. But these are challenging times. And so I want to invite you, if you're not doing that, to say, God, today, what would you do through me? Some of you, God might be saying, you know what, I want to ask you to do more. Do more? What do you mean do more? These are uncertain times. What if God's saying, let me show off in your life by showing you what I'm able to do, even when it doesn't make any sense? So today, can I invite you to practice generosity to God? To declare not just with your mouth, but with the things that He's given to you, that your trust is in Him. And I believe not only will God supply all of your needs, but He'll supply what's needed here. And we'll continue to move forward in doing all that He's called us to do. Today, let's practice generosity, because that reflects the heart of God.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Bridge. We are so glad you are here with us online on this last Sunday of August. My name is Michael Hoddy. I am kind of a frequent and recurring guest speaker here at the Bridge, and I'm just so glad to be with you this morning. I'm so glad you've joined us online, and I believe that God has met us and is meeting us and desires to meet us as we hear from His Word, as we open it together, because we live in a time where following hard after God is more important than it ever has been. And the thing I want to talk about this morning as we kind of take a little bit of a break at the end of one series and before the fall hits and we start another series is I want to talk about something that I think will guide us so well as people of faith, people who are Jesus followers, people who are on the path of understanding what God has for us and how to follow God in our lives and to live out a Christian faith everywhere we go. I believe there's something very significant that God has for us today. And the message title today is called The Caterpillar of Death. And a couple of you are super excited about that because you're like, yes, this is that series or that message on Revelation, on the beast and the eyes and all the crazy stuff that you've been waiting for years. And I hate to disappoint you because that's not what it's about at all. Allow me to tell you a story. I used to be on staff at the Bridge Church, and the Bridge, some of you know me, some of you don't, but it's one of the most dear places to me and my family. It's a place that feels very much like home for us, and where we just had a wonderful experience serving, walking with all of you, and we went on a missions trip back in 2013. I cannot believe that is 7 years ago, but the Bridge Church went to Costa Rica, and we went to a little town called Alajuelita, and we served as typically you do in missions trips. We built stuff, and we served, and we ran a VBS, and we learned a lot, and we saw God break our heart for the things I believe that break God's heart. But there was this one day, and it was kind of towards the end of the trip, where we had a little bit of time off, and this town of Alajuelita, like so many towns in Central America, they had a local carnival, and one of the things that happens in any good local carnival is you have some carnival rides. Now, some of you've been to a local carnival somewhere in Nassau County on the island or somewhere, and you know the rides I'm talking about. You look at them, you kind of walk up to them, you wonder who put them together and if that person knew what they were doing, but then you go ahead and get on the ride. And that was the case for us and our group. And your illustrious lead pastor, Dan Quagliato, and I were on this trip together. And there was this one ride, it was this little roller coaster, and it was like a caterpillar, and I wish you could see the pictures of it, but it just looked sketchy. It looked like something that might not make it to the other end. And me being the kind of person I was, and Pastor Dan being the kind of person he was, we got right on board and off we went. And one of the things that I've discovered traveling the world is that safety standards in other places in the world are a little bit different than what they are here in America. And so it was very much a white-knuckle affair, not because the roller coaster was scary, it wasn't a really big roller coaster, but just simply because it wasn't certain whether or not we were going to get to the end of this thing without it going off the track, without it falling apart, without something bad happening, and us ending up in a heap. And thus was born, we dubbed this roller coaster the Caterpillar of Death. And it was just this little experience that I think paints a picture so well for us when it comes to our lives and when it comes to faith. And what I want to talk about today is a very simple word that has tremendous implications. It's something that if you've been around church for any length of time, you've heard it before, and it's the word trust. You know, you sung the songs, you've heard the Bible verses, you've heard the stories. You know that one of the things you're supposed to do as a person of faith is to trust in God. To trust that God knows what He's doing, that God has put it together. And when you get on the ride of life, knowing that it will get to the end and you'll get there in one piece going with God. But one of the things I've discovered that's true in life, and it's especially true right now, and you only need to turn on the news, is that trust is at critically low levels everywhere else in our lives right now. Think about it. Some of you have a political persuasion. Maybe it's you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, and you look across the aisle at the people who are in the other group, and you don't trust them at all. You don't trust their leaders at all. You don't trust anything that they say, anything that they promise. You just don't trust that they can deliver anything good. Some of you, you turn on the news and you don't trust the news. We've been in a pandemic, and there have been all sorts of things that have been said, all sorts of people who have said them, and we have a difficult time figuring out who we can trust to be true and to be right and who isn't. And so trust is at a critically low level in so many places in our world and in our lives at this moment. But there's another truth that goes with that one, and it's that in uncertain times, and you and I think, can both agree that we live in uncertain times. I think when we started this season back in March, and right now, I can't believe it's the end of summer. It feels like kind of like March 130th, 2020. It's like the month that never ended, but here we go into the fall. And if you're anything like me, you hope that we would have made some sense of where this thing was going to go by now. And if you're anything like me, you look at the world, you look at what's going on, you look at our country, you look at the statistics, and you say, we haven't figured out how the fall's going to go yet. We don't know when this is going to end. We don't know when the numbers are going to trend down. We don't know when things are going to get back to normal. And what happens is in uncertain times, trust is more critical. It's more important than ever before. And I think what happens for us who are Jesus followers, who are people of faith, is that we sing the songs, we see the verses, we see like those motivational posters and the Instagram posts, and we think that trust is something that should come easily for us. But what I think is true about trust is it's a lot more like that caterpillar of death roller coaster, where we got on and it's a white knuckle affair and we're hanging on and we're hoping we got on the right ride and we're hoping the ride will get us to the end. And ironically, when we struggle to trust because it's not like what we thought it was supposed to be, it actually keeps us from trusting. Trust, I believe, is less about being certain of the journey and more about being certain of who you're on the journey with. Let me say that again. Trust is less about being certain about the journey. It's less about knowing how it's all going to work out and where it's going to end and what it's going to look like. It is much more about who you're on the journey with and how certain you are of that person, or in this case, I believe, God. There was a psychologist in the early part of the 20th century. His name was Jack Gibb, and he said this: trust is the result of a risk that is successfully survived. Think about it. You figured out how to trust when you got out to the edge of something. You took a risk. There was something in play. There was something that could have gone either way, and it worked out, and that actually has the effect of building your confidence. That's true in life. That's true in our careers. That's true with our kids. That's true in our relationships. It's true everywhere. It's true with our experiences. We want trust to come before we risk, but that's not how it works. We want trust to come before we get on the journey, but that's not how it works. We want trust to be before we get on the caterpillar of death. We want to know how it's all going to work out, but I believe that trust actually comes when we're on the journey, and especially who we're on the journey with. And so this morning, I want to look at my very favorite psalm. It's a little personal to me. It's Psalm 84. And it's a psalm that was written, and it's talking about God, but it's talking about this subject of how we trust and who we trust. And it begins like this. And if you want to follow along on your mobile device or in your Bible, we're just on Psalm 84. We're going to go through the whole thing. And the writer starts and he says this: "How lovely is your dwelling place, Lord Almighty. My soul yearns, even faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may have her young. A place near your altar, Lord Almighty, my King and my God." So there's this mix of imagery. The writer would have been thinking about the temple. He would have been thinking about the place where it was believed that the presence of God dwelled and existed. But right next to it, there's this imagery of common, ordinary birds. Think about it. When you see sparrows and swallows, like those little gray birds that kind of hop around, nobody's like, "Ooh, look at those." because they're absolutely ordinary. They're insignificant. We see them all the time. They're not like a fancy color. They don't do a cool thing. They're not like hawks. They're not like parrots or parakeets or even cardinals. They're gray, they're drab, they're small, and they just go about their business. Sparrows, I believe, in this passage, they represent the most insignificant, unimportant, common, unnoticed, ordinary, normal things. And the writer is saying, these are the kinds of creatures that have a home close to the presence of God. Think about it for a second. You and I, we live in a world that more than ever before, everyone is trying to be extraordinary. Everyone is trying to be significant. Everyone is trying to post the thing that goes viral, that gets the most likes. They're trying to present a picture of their life that is larger than it actually is, that is greater and more put together than it is, where things are better than they seem. Everyone is trying to get noticed, and frankly, if you're anything like me, at some point, it's exhausting. And God is saying this. He's saying he is a home for the ordinary, for the unimpressive, for the ones who don't stand out from the crowd, who have nothing to separate themselves. Swallows, the other bird here, if you've ever seen a swallow, they're constantly flitting around, and I believe that represents the restless, the anxious, the never relaxing, never taking a breath, never settling down. And you and I live in the tri-state area of Metro New York, and we understand what this feels like. We understand what the pace feels like. We understand what it feels like to never catch a breath, to feel like we're never getting ahead. And God is saying there is rest for people like that. Ordinary people, people who are worn out, who are constantly in motion. There's a place where you can release all of that in the presence of God. And maybe for some of you this morning, that's what you need to hear this morning. You've been trying, you've been overachieving, you've been trying to exceed expectations, you've been trying to stand out from the crowd, you've been trying to paint a picture of your life that's anything but ordinary, and God is saying, you can release that in my presence because it's not about your performance, but it's about your proximity. It's not about your performance for me, it's about your proximity to me, and you can find rest for your souls. Maybe you've always been striving, you're working, it feels like it's constant, and God is saying, let me be God just for a moment. Be still and know that I am God. You know, I think there's something under the surface, and this is true for me, and maybe it's true for you too, of our struggle for significance and our anxious restlessness. It's a search. It's a search where we are trying to find something that is true, something that is solid, something that can be depended on, something that we can put our hope in, something that we can put our trust in. And God is saying, when you are in proximity to me, when you have found me, you have found that thing. The psalmist, he goes on, he says, blessed are those who dwell in your house. They are ever praising you. Blessed are those whose strength is in you, whose hearts are set on pilgrimage. As they pass through the valley of Baca, they make it a place of springs. The autumn rains also cover it in pools. They go from strength to strength till each appears before God in Zion. This is kind of an interesting passage because there's two ideas that seem like they're opposed to each other here. Blessed are those who dwell. Blessed are those who stay in a place. And blessed are those who go somewhere. Blessed are those who go on pilgrimage. I'm married to my wife, Grace, and we now have 2 little boys, which is such an exciting story that I'll share about just a little bit later on. And my wife, Grace, and my son, Christopher, they would be happy if they never left the house. They just are home buddies. They love being there, and that's awesome. I'm completely the opposite. I'm always on the move. I don't sit still for very long. I can barely sit through an entire movie. And what God is saying here is he's saying, blessed are those who dwell, blessed are those who stay, And blessed are those who go. And I think what we have to understand is what is going on here and what he means. Blessed are those who dwell in the house of God. Blessed are those who are rooted in the presence. They are practicing the presence of God. They're rooted in the goodness of God. The original writer, he was talking about, as we said earlier, the temple. And now we have to ask ourselves the question, what does that mean for us? Because we don't have that. Some of the other writers in the Bible, the Apostle Paul in the New Testament, for instance, who wrote many of the books and many of the letters to the early church, he said this. He said, we, the people of God, are the temple of God. We are where the presence of God dwells. And so what we discover here is that we can dwell in the presence of God. The presence of God can dwell with us, but we can also be on the move as that happens. There's this word pilgrimage in there. And in the Old Testament, that would have been someone who was on a spiritual or religious journey. You know, in some other religions and some other faiths, people go on pilgrimages to places. And what this is this idea that you're on a journey with God. And so what the writer's saying here is he's saying, blessed are those who have rooted their lives in the presence of God. But blessed are those also for whom that has taken them on a journey somewhere. Blessed are those who have gotten on the caterpillar of death, the uncertain roller coaster of a ride that represents our lives, that represents our journey and us following after God. What happens on that journey? There's this weird little place that nobody really knows about, the Valley of Baca. And scholars, the best they can discern about what that is, that's a place of dryness, of difficulty, of tears. But there's something that happens in the passage. It says you're going to go through the valley of tears, of difficulty. And some of you can relate to this now more than ever before, because it feels like the journey of 2020 has been a journey through a difficult, dry, desolate valley. And there have been many tears along the way. But there's a promise in this passage. They make it a place of springs. The autumn rain also cover it with pools. And so there's this place of weeping, of drought, of dryness, of desolation, but there's something that happens as we continue on the journey. Life emerges from death. Life emerges from desolation. Life emerges from dryness. The rains come and they bring refreshment. And they bring new life. And some of you this morning, all I just want to encourage you to do is hold on, hang on, stay on the ride, because right now it feels dry, it feels desolate, it feels purposeless. You're about to throw in the towel. You're about to hang it up. You have no more strength and you're done. And you're looking at the fall and saying, there's another season of change coming and I just don't know if I have enough to get through it. But if you go with God and the presence of God dwells with you, He has the ability to take death and transform it into life. He has the ability to take dryness and turn it into fruitfulness. He has the ability to take your weakness and replenish it with His strength. Hang on and allow God to meet you in that place. And so the key ingredients of trust, we see them here. It's being rooted in something. It's being rooted in the reality and the presence of God. You know, one of the reasons, we just sang some worship songs, one of the reasons we do that, one of the reasons I do that is because it recenters me, it reroutes me. The reason you have all been coming back week after week online when there's other things you could be doing is because it recenters and reroutes you. When we're able to gather again as a church in a physical place, it recenters and it reroutes you in the presence of God and with the people of God. And there's something that's so significant about that. When we gather together, when we anchor ourselves to who God is. But that's not all that happens, because God says, get on the journey that I have in front of you. Get on the ride. Get on the caterpillar of death. You're not certain of how it's going to work out. You're not certain of where it's going to end, but you can be certain of who you're on the ride with. You're on the ride with me. You're on the ride with God. You're on the ride with the author and the finisher of your faith, the writer of your story, the one who will not waste a word, will not waste a breath, will not waste a chapter, and will not waste a moment if we will but give him the pen. And this is the recipe of trust. Trust is not when we've acquired enough data and enough certainty. It's when we start rooted in the truth of who we believe God is. But then we step out and we move. And as we do that, just like that quote we talked about in the beginning, that it's trust increases as we face risks and we survive them. As we walk with God, we find that he proves himself faithful, and our confidence increases and our trust increases. Thomas Merton, he was a famous theologian and scholar and mystic in the Christian faith, and he said this. He said, "We do not see and then act. We act and then see." We don't see and then act. We would love that. Show me and then I'll do something. We act. We take a step of faith, and then we see God prove himself faithful over and over again. But there's tension, there's risk. There's even worry involved in that. The psalmist, he says this in verse 8. He says, "Hear my prayer, Lord Almighty. Listen to me, O God of Jacob. Look on our shield, O God. Look with favor on your anointed ones." This isn't just like a happy, bless our food and give us traveling mercies prayer. This is a God, you need to come through. See what's going on down here. Pay attention. We need you to show up. We need you to come through. It's a plea. I need to see. I need to hold on. I need to experience. Lord, we've gotten on the ride, but we need you to be on the ride with us as we go forward. And then the psalmist says this. He says, "Better is one day in your courts than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked." There is no better place to be than with God on the journey, with God on the ride, with God on the caterpillar of death. The psalmist is saying, I'd rather have the worst seat on that ride than the best seat anywhere else. I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the presence of God. I'd rather be the one who has the low job there than to dwell in the tents, to have the best position anywhere else. There's nowhere else I would rather be. Last week we had an interesting story happen in the life of our family. My wife was, and you see where this is going, 7 months pregnant. And last Wednesday, in the middle of the day, she called me downstairs. She said, "Hey, there's a problem. I'm bleeding a little bit. We need to go to the doctor." And if you've been pregnant or you've had someone, those are not good words. And so that began a journey for us as a family. And we ended up in the hospital, and I just remember all the fear, all the concern, all the weight of hoping that our baby was okay, hoping that my wife was going to be okay. And I remember sitting in that hospital room, and it turned from an appointment into overnight, and I was just sitting there late at night, and I was still getting ready to preach for Sunday, or at least I thought I was going to do that. And I was dwelling on this passage that I was supposed to be preaching about, but it was actually something I believe God gave for me, and it was in John chapter 14. And this verse has become my life verse and probably will always be. And Jesus is saying this to his disciples because things are about to get crazy in their life. He's about to get arrested and then crucified, and everything is about to change. And Jesus says, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." And if there's a verse I have ever clung to, like physically hung on to, just like hanging on to the bar in the seat of the caterpillar of death, it was that verse last Wednesday night. The story goes on. I woke up early Thursday morning and looked over at my wife. We were in the hospital room. I was trying to sleep on that goofy chair that they have there that really nobody can sleep on comfortably. And she was in a lot of pain. And contractions had started and a process had started. And I'll make a long story short. Very quickly the narrative shifted. And very early on Thursday morning, 2 months early, our son Jonathan Robert Hoddy was born. And he's in the intensive care unit. And my wife is recovering well, and he'll be there for a little bit, but he's healthy. And so far, everything looks good. And I've learned an important lesson that even though the story has had so many ups and downs, and right now it feels so hopeful, every day he's making progress. The thing that doesn't matter is the story, because all of our stories are going to have difficult moments. They're going to have white-knuckle moments. They're going to have moments where we put our hands in the air and cheer, just like when you get to the end of one of those rides, you don't know if you're going to survive. But the thing that matters is who is with you on the ride. And more than anything else in this last week, I have known the presence of God. I have known that God goes with me and that he can be trusted. And that has given me strength, and that has given me hope, and that has given me a certainty and a conviction, even as I share this message with you, that God can be trusted. There is no other place I would rather be. And I hope for you, there was no place you would rather be. Yeah, you're on the ride of life, and it's difficult, and it's uncertain at times, and sometimes it even feels a little sketchy and like it might fly apart. And you don't know what's in the future, and you don't know how it's going to end, but you know who is with you on the ride. And it is the God of the universe, the one who created you, the one who has authority and dominion over every force, every circumstance in the world, the one about whom it is said, neither height nor depth, nor the past, nor the present, nor the future, nor powers, nor principalities, nor angels, nor demons, nothing can separate you from the love of God in Jesus Christ. And he's on the ride with you. And he knows where it goes. And he knows how it ends. There's no place I'd rather be. And I hope for you, there's no place you would rather be. The passage ends, and the psalm comes to a close. And the psalmist says, "For the Lord God is a sun and a shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good thing does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless, for those who stay on the ride, who don't get off, and who don't give up. Lord Almighty, blessed is the one who trusts in you." You are blessed if you stay anchored to the presence of God. But if you get on the journey with God, knowing that he goes with you, it's not that you're certain of the journey. It's not that you know how all the circumstances are going to work out. It's not that you can trust all the people and all of the promises that are made, but you can trust the one that you're on the journey with. It's not because of any other thing, but the fact that God goes with you and you go with him, and he can be trusted, and there is no better place to be. Blessed is the one who trusts in you. Blessed is the one who trusts in God. There's a story of a man named John Newton. He was an English slave trader. And it's an amazing story. He basically went from oppressing all sorts of people. This near shipwreck brought him to faith. And he went from being one of the leading figures in slave trading to one of the leading figures of the abolition of slavery in England. And so he had this ride that was this white-knuckle affair, but it was something that God used to bring him close to himself, to give him a better story. And he wrote these words. We know him for these words more than anything else, and the words for the hymn, Amazing Grace. It says this: "Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. I've seen what you've done in the past, God. I know that you can be trusted because you've brought me here." It goes on, "'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far. And grace, the presence, the reality of God, will lead me home." Blessed is the one who trusts in God, who anchors their lives in the reality and the presence of God, who doesn't put their trust in the circumstances or the people or the situations or the future or the present or their resources or their inventiveness or any of those other things, but simply puts their trust in the one they're on the journey with. Blessed is the one who trusts in you. Let's pray together. God, I know a message like this is profoundly personal because it is for me. It's been my experience these past months, but especially this past week. And I know for those who are listening and who are watching, there are many big and many small ways that this speaks into all of our lives. I pray that you would give us the courage to get on the caterpillar of death, to get on the ride that you have for us. And the ride seems uncertain. We don't know how the ride ends, but we can trust the one who goes with us every step of the way. For some of us this morning, would you just reveal your presence, and would your presence be manifested by peace in our lives? We would stop struggling, we'd stop striving, we'd stop flitting around like a swallow. We would know that we have found a home in your presence, that you can be trusted, and that we can find rest for our souls. But would that rest motivate us, inspire us to get on the journey with you, to take the next step? Would you give us the strength to do that, the clarity to know when to wait on you, the faith to step out when we need to, and the wisdom to know the difference? And I pray all of these things in Jesus' name.
'Cause you don't give your heart in pieces and fragments. No, you give it all. And you don't hide yourself to tease us. 'Cause your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind. It isn't anxious, it's not the restless kind. And your love's not passive, it's never disengaged. It's always present, and it hangs on every word we say. Love keeps its promises, it keeps its word. It honors what's safe, 'cause its vows are good. Your love's not broken, it's not insecure. Your love's not selfish, no, your love is pure. Your love's not fractured, it's not a troubled mind. It isn't anxious, it's not the restless kind. No, your love's not broken and not insecure. Your love's not selfish, your love is pure. And you don't give your heart in pieces. Oh no, you don't. You don't hide yourself to tease You don't give your heart in pieces, no. And you don't hide yourself to tease us. Oh no. And you don't give your heart in pieces to me, no. You give it all. And you won't hide yourself just to tease me, no, you won't. Oh, and you don't give your heart in pieces. And you don't hide yourself to tease us. Thank you, God. Oh, thank you, God. Oh, for being open to me. Oh, it's more than I deserve. Oh, but you give me all your love freely. I don't have to buy it, I don't have to earn it. Oh, you give your love freely to me, God. God, we just thank you. Thank you for these moments that we can come into the presence of you, in the presence of someone that we don't even deserve to be at your feet right now, God. There's nothing that we could do to be worthy of being in this moment, but you let us come, God, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to be here with you right now. God, and I just want to thank you specifically for the love that you pour out on us, even when we're unaware of it, even when we don't feel it, even when we're lost in sadness or despair or anxiety. Your love is still around us. You're still screaming it over us. You want us to see it. You want us to receive it, God. Sometimes we just shut it out. God, I feel that so strongly, that someone is shutting out your love. They're not letting it in all the way. And you just so desperately want to hold them. You so desperately want to love them. And just breathe your love into them. God, so please just take down those walls, the walls of fear for people who feel they aren't lovable. Some people don't feel they can receive that love from you, God, but it's not true, God. It's for everyone. Every broken heart, every happy soul, everyone in mourning, everyone in darkness, everyone who is comforted, everyone who seems to have it all together. God, your love's for everyone. Those that we can't love, you still love. And God, I know you can love me all the way. So God, I just thank you for that. Keep our hearts open to that love. Because love is the only way. Your love is the only way.
Let me give you a blessing today as you go on your way. But before I do that, let me remind you that immediately following these services at 9:30 and 11:15, we're going to have a virtual hangout. We're calling it kind of an afterglow after the services. Either myself or one of our pastors will be there. We just want to say hello, give you the opportunity to see each other, say hello to each other, to talk about what God's been up to in your lives, maybe talk a little bit about the message that you just heard. So right when this service is done, after I give you this blessing, watch your screen. Okay? Or if you're watching in the chat feature, we'll put that information in there for you to log in. We'll put it in there as a link. It'll be a Zoom room for you to go into just to say hello. And we hope that you'll take the opportunity to do that. All right? I pray that the Lord would bless you and keep you. I pray that the Lord would make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. I pray that the Lord would look upon you with his favor and give you his peace that passes all understanding, and that would guard your heart and guard your mind in Christ Jesus. Have a great week. In just a couple of minutes, I hope to see you in our virtual hangout. Have a great week, everybody.